Here we go. Want to thank you for joining us tonight. Nati Alvarado, Councilman Jonathan Hernandez. Before we go any further today, I want to ask you, those of you that are watching, if you would please share this to your friends, because we're going to talk about our Chicano Heritage Festival. We're going to talk some about with Councilman Hernandez here, a little bit about his background, who he is. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I want you to do the same thing. Because I believe it's going to be good. Just give me 1 minute here, and here we go, man. All right. Wow. Once again, I want to thank you for being with us tonight. And we have our website with Neutral Ground, and our tagline on that is changing the story. We have our website at ngservices.org. I want to invite you to go to that. We have merchandise on there with the graphics that you see behind us, and we have many other things on there. We're a nonprofit organization here in the city. Been doing the work here in the city of Santa Ana for about 33 years now, working in our streets, working with the youngsters, working with the families in this community. Executive director of Neutral Ground. I also pastor a church here in the city of Santa Ana, the Life Center, which is my base. And that's where all of this started. It started through us as a church, my wife and I, Teresa, just working the streets and loving people back to life. So here we are today. And God has opened a lot of doors for us, and we're honored to be a part of it. Born and raised in the city of Santa Ana, my heart's here. And I always say that as I was born here, I live here, and I'm going to die here. And I ain't got a problem with it at all, man. You know, so, but with that, tonight, I want to, we're going to get into Chicano Heritage Festival on Sunday. But before we do all of that, I want to get into a little bit about yourself. Councilman Jonathan Hernandez is who we have here with us. And Councilman Hernandez, you hear us and you see it where we talk about changing the story. That line, what is that? What do you feel? What do you see when you hear that? What does that mean to you?
It means that there's more than a fighting opportunity for people like us. I think for a long time we've just survived, and I think that a lot of us have survived, but it didn't come without a fight. And so when I think of changing the story, I think people who came from our community went through hardships, came back to those hardships and changed them.
Right.
And I think of people like yourself who had every reason to fall through the cracks and not stand back up. And yet falling through those cracks and getting up time and time again.
Yeah.
And it feels like every time something gets better, you hit a wall.
Yeah.
And you keep pushing. I think that's what changing the story is. It's about those people who have hit those walls, coming back and removing them, and walking people across the finish line. And I think when I think of changing the story, I think of what's happening on Sunday at El Salvador Park.
Well, Councilman Hernandez, you're a councilman, and you've been in the city and had to deal with stuff, and making decisions at times that with your position that sometimes some people agree, some people don't agree, and that's the way it goes across the board everywhere with anything, with whoever it is in place of leadership. But before any of that, you're Jonathan Hernandez. You were raised here in the city. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing and who are you besides Councilman Hernandez?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And I think as I've gotten older, a lot of learning comes with that time. And I think that my story today is different than what it was a year ago.
Right.
And I start there because our stories are always changing. Sometimes our stories, when we're asked this question, sometimes we're at the toughest point in our life. Sometimes we're at the strongest. Presently, who I am is I am a proud father to my daughter, Ebony Hernandez.
Yep, I met her. Yep.
And I'm a proud servant of my community. And that's something I take pride in. It's something I instill in my daughter. And at the core of who I am, I'm a servant of the public. But I'm most proud of being the grandson to Enrique Prieto and Indelisa Prieto. I'm proud to be the grandson to Richard Delfino Hernandez and Adeline Hernandez Peralta. My grandparents on my mom's side of the family are from Guadalajara, Jalisco. and they came to Santa Ana in the late 50s, and they settled in Artesia Pilar.
Right.
And my grandparents purchased 2 homes in the city at that time. One was off of Civic Center and Rate, the other was on Second and on Baker.
Right.
And our family set roots here.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was Calle Ocho and it was Artesia Street.
Right.
And Fremont was right on the corner, which is what is now a house.
I'm alumni. I'm part of
You're a Fremont
the
alumni?
original Fremont.
Yeah, and that's my.
Let me ask you, move your mic over just a little bit, please. We want to make sure everybody hears you.
Absolutely. And on my mom's side of the family.
No, you got to move it this way.
This way. Yeah, absolutely. No worries.
Yeah, it's
I want
all
to
right.
make sure folks can hear me okay.
That's right. There you go, right in the middle.
And to start with my grandparents' experience is very important to me because I wouldn't be who I am today without them. My grandparents Enrique and Endelisa migrated here from Jalisco and they settled in Santana. And my mom and my uncles were first generation Chicanos. My dad's side of the family has a very different story. My dad's side of the family, my grandmother was a war bride who was originally from LA County. My grandfather's family had such deep roots in California, we can't trace them back to what we now know as Mexico.
Right.
What a lot of us know is that, California was part of our land. But my dad's side of the family has been native to California as far as we can trace back.
Wow.
And my dad's side of the family was originally from the Chavez Ravine community.
Oh, wow.
And when they were displaced,
Great story there.
when they were displaced, they came to Artesia, and that's how my mom and my dad met.
Well, I know your mom. I've known her since I was young. I know your father. We have way back in the day. I'm 61 years old, so I go a little back. I'm a 70s guy. And, raised there in the community with, around your parents. Went to the original Fremont School. So, I see that, and I think all of that has shaped you and allowed you, because with yourself, I remember, for some reason I grew up on one street and I got in a lot of trouble. But my friends, the Mayas that lived on the next street, there were like 4 boys or 5, I can't remember, it's 4 or 5. But all of them were like pretty, there was one, my buddy that sort of went like me. But they all did good. So, how do you had to have maneuvered through that. You had to see it and to not get caught up and to do something different as you did and who you are today. As one of our younger council members ever,
Yeah.
if not the youngest.
Yeah. I don't know the history on that, but I know I'm one of the youngest.
Yeah.
Michelle Martinez is the youngest
Is she,
woman
Michelle?
to
Yeah,
ever get
good-
elected. She was 26,
good friend of
I
ours.
believe.
Yeah. So I know that once again, also beside being a council member, you work, you have a job. And what is that area of that you work in? What do you do?
My first pathway into the workforce, I was a young student. And much like a lot of kids in our community, I lived in a household, a working class household, where we didn't have the most money. And so when I was a teenager, like many kids in Artesia Pilar that live beside El Salvador Park,
Right.
I made a lot of mistakes. I fell through the cracks on many occasions. I didn't think I would live to see
Those
21.
cracks are all over the place.
Those cracks are everywhere. But I didn't think I would live to see 21. To be honest, I really didn't think past 18. And I credit my brother a lot because my brother taught me a lot of values that I keep with me to this day.
That's good.
My dad was a Chicano who raised us to be proud of our Chicano heritage.
Right.
I learned about being a Chicano before I learned about what a Mexican American was.
Right.
That was how I was raised.
Right.
And my father was proud of being from Artesia Pilar. And like many men from his generation, he went a different direction. And he was from a barrio.
Yeah.
And my uncles on both sides of my family went that direction.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a household where the examples of men that I saw were very solid stand-up guys, but the police would say otherwise about people that I thought were special.
Right.
My uncle Salvador Prieto, may he rest in peace.
Yeah, I know Sal.
He taught me how to take care of family. He taught me that nothing goes above your family, and that, whatever you got to do to take care of your loved ones, you got to do it. And my Uncle Sal taught me a lot of my values that I have today. And my brother, I remember when we were a kid and we had a lot of our friends that either passed to gang violence, that were shot or robbed We had a lot of good friends that fell through the cracks. I remember my brother told me, whatever it is that we go through in this community, one rule we can't break is that we can't fight each other.
Yep.
And he goes, I'll never hit you.
Yep.
You never hit me.
Same thing with my boys.
And we shook hands.
I instilled that in my boys, man.
Yeah.
But you know, you are in the mental health field, right?
Yeah. For me, my work journey started as a 17-year-old parent. I had to enter the workforce because I became a parent at 17. And like I said, I was going a very different direction with my life. I was a young man that was going through a very challenging time where it was just extremely difficult for me when it came to the household that I was living in. And I became a parent at the age of 17, and my grandparents, with their tough love, you know, were very transparent in saying, Mijo, we love you, but you're on your own. You have to go out and be a man, and you got to raise your daughter. Sweet. And I was like, I still got to graduate high school. I'm still finishing school. And I remember going through school and being a dad and eventually going into the workforce. And my first job, I was working in organized labor. And I was working on the No Proposition 32 campaign in 2011 and 12. Shortly after that, I got into to working in the labor movement. Shortly after that, I started working with professional athletes on organizing fighters in the sport of mixed martial arts, the MMAFA. Along that journey of raising my daughter and serving my community, I found myself in the field of reentry. And my first journey began in Orange County, serving my community here in Santana. Good. And there was a program that existed through the county, through the Department of Justice, that is no longer funded. But this program gave me the opportunity to work with kids from our community who were 17 to 24, young adults. And I was working with kids who were prosecuted, you know, as adults, as a minor. And I started working in reentry, and I saw my peers. I saw people that I felt safe around. And it was empowering to see them feel human again, working with somebody who sees value in them, who doesn't see them as dangerous, but sees them as people that we can instill full of hope. And I then began working in Compton and in Watts and the Nickerson Garden community as a reentry interventionist there. And then found myself working in the field of mental health in 2020. And for me, it was important to work in the field of mental health and to work with foster youth because I have two younger siblings that I haven't met that are in the foster system. My two younger siblings are Bruno and Jesse.
Yeah, they're not just siblings, they have a name in there. Yeah. Bruno and Jesse. That's beautiful. You know, well, you know, I get it with the foster. I mean, when Nati's house, we've been collaborating now since probably around 2010 with Orangewood Foundation. And we work with Pathways, which is a lot of mental health, and a couple other organizations where we bring them in, house them, and take care of them. And we have a really good relationship with them for a long time. So here we go there, fella. Councilman Hernandez, what inspired you? What inspired you to run for office? Because for me, when I think about that, that's like way over there, man. You know, because there's so much responsibility. There's so much that comes at you. There's so many rocks that could be thrown at you and old bones dug up against you and all these kinds of things when you walk into this political arena. And so when I look at it, I was like, oh man, you know, I'm just gonna stay in my lane and do my deal in my community and love these people. But you stepped into a place of policy change, a place to change policy, to change things. And that's so honorable of you. But what inspired you to step into that?
Wow, that's a really deep question because I find myself inspired every day, and especially by people like you. And the reason why I say that is because as a kid who grew up in a family that faced a lot of the challenges that you're very well aware of. These households are very broken, and we go to school and we show up broken, and teachers sometimes ask themselves, why? And the answers are often found in the lack of resources that exist on these campuses at the time when I was a student. And what we were doing to kids during my time as a student, I went to Fremont, Spurgeon, Santana
Yeah.
High School.
Spurgeon, Cooper,
And
Fremont Bear, right
Fremont,
here
there
too.
you go. I share that though because at the time the educational system was very different. The solution to kids who were dealing with hardship was to remove them from the classroom. And when you remove them from the classroom, you remove the one safe place that exists for kids like myself. And so I was raised by my community. I was raised by my uncle. I was raised by good neighbors. I was raised by people in the neighborhood who make sure that when you were falling through the cracks, they lifted you up and said, go home.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of those people. And I remember at the time, I had a representative in our city council, Roman Reina.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very interested in politics. And I saw a video on him on YouTube. And he was talking about his brother Sam, rest in peace.
I knew Sam very well.
And Sam lost his life, and he was somebody who grew up in our community. And I saw a councilman that was talking about his brother who was from our community who lost his life.
Let me just stop right there. I've known Roman, and I admired him because I was on that street not doing right. And I would see him walk out of his house and go work at the park or work at the Boys and Girls Club, and he stayed focused. And I know his brother. I knew his brother well, you know, and you know, he passed away. But I admired Roman's. He didn't get, even though he was right in the middle of it. He stayed focused from a little boy, young boy, working at the park, working at Boys and Girls Club, and so today he still is a part of youth leadership or
youth in government.
Youth in government. So go ahead.
He inspired me.
Yeah.
And when I saw him, I thought, how could a city councilman talk about something so traumatic and be elected? And I realized at that time when I was a young kid that the reason I was so amazed by his story was because I wasn't proud of mine. And it's like you said, the past sometimes can be a very difficult place for people who are raised in communities like ours. You got to understand, for people who aren't from here, you know, Santana, there are pockets of our community where families are raised and they're developed through the arts and they're developed through music. And then communities like us, our children are raised and developed through trauma. And they learn to become experts of trauma at a very young age.
I was developing music, and every weekend my dad and my tios and my tio would bring their guitars and they play and they drink and then they cry and they play the guitar. That's a neighborhood right
that
there.
Was it.
That was at my house, man. You know.
And so for me, I was inspired because I saw somebody who was talking about the concrete that he came from.
Right.
And I remember when he lost his election to Juan Villegas, who was a sheriff,
right,
who was not from our community. I felt very disenfranchised. I felt very pushed out of my own community to see somebody win on special interest. And I remember telling myself, I hope to God somebody who represents our stories runs for office and wins one day. And I was very young at that time. And George Floyd dies in 2020. And at the time, children are in cages at the border. And I just remember thinking, looking at my elected official thinking, how is this person gonna bring solutions to problems he doesn't even know exists? And I thought, why are we gonna wait for people to clean this up? And I said, you know what? I'm watching people get killed by the police. I'm watching children be put in cages. And I remember telling our community, the Raza, we need to start protesting and we need to start supporting the black community. And there was the activist organizations who were kind of staying in their lane, not touching the subject. And I said, the fact that we can't touch the subject of supporting black and brown unity, it sets us back several years because we should have built it. Yeah. Because if you don't think that seeing what they did to George Floyd, that our people are next, don't let it surprise you. I'm gonna be on those streets. So I'm gonna go support. I'm gonna build black and brown unity. I was already doing it for years before. And I remember I ran for office, and my ideology was, what's the worst you can say about me if I say it for you? I'll say all the worst things. I'll tell you, I thought them too about myself.
You know, my kids, my children, they know about their dad.
Yeah.
So they know about their dad, but they also know about their dad's strengths, of what it changed me, and they are admired by their father.
I admire you.
They know what dad went through, who dad was, but who I am today.
And that's to be celebrated. And that same ideology you have on being truthful with your children, it's important, because that was the ideology that I had to have when I ran for office. Was, if I run on truth, I get to govern on it.
Yeah, and I agree. You know, Councilman Villegas, he was good with me.
I have a lot of respect
He
for
was
him.
good with me and my family, and when he was in the community there, and he did support us and all, and you know, I say that because, you know, he did support us in the things that we did, that I was doing.
And
in the
he's a
community
vet.
at that time, yeah.
And he was an
Sheriff,
honorable vet.
he retired now. So, you know, you know, and I understand that what you're saying regarding there's just different things at times. Some people live a different life than another life. And it's all works together through the years that I've seen council members come, I've seen council members go. I've seen mayors come, I've seen mayors go. I've seen chief of police come, I've seen chief of police go. And the thing about you, that one thing that I want to say about that I understand, is that I believe that when people run for office, they shouldn't just pop up and run for office. They should already know them, that they're part of our community. It just gives it, because once the office is done, you don't see them no more. And see, I've seen my community all these years. I've never left. And that's just what I believe, that, you know, when we got these people that, you know, if we're going to serve our community, let's serve it, whether we're in office or whether we're not in office. And I want to throw a plug in there, because we have elections coming up. And I want to say this, you know, I really think about this, because my heart is not really like let's just say if you're running, I'm not going to say that I'm supporting just Jonathan, or I'm supporting this person, I'm supporting this person. You know, I'm a man of God. Whoever comes in position is going to serve my city.
Yeah, that's the hope.
You get what I mean? So once they get in that position, I'm going to support them 100%. And hopefully we could change, you know, and continue to change the story in our community. And my heart is, I would just wish that our council members and our city officials and everybody else would, because we're working for our community. Now, this is my own thing, that we would work together in unity for the cause of the community. Not, I get it, we have our own lanes. So let me get away from that. But I understand that kind of stuff. So let me ask you this. What has been your greatest challenge, Councilman Hernandez? Because I know you have met challenges. I know that anybody that's in office, you know, meet challenges because people aren't agree with you. But I believe you have to move in your heart, and you do what you feel that you need to do, and vote on what you need to vote on, and so be it. But out of all of that, how long have you been in office now?
It's going to be 2 years in December of 2022.
Okay, so what has been your greatest challenge, Jonathan?
I mean, challenges are, for me, and I'm speaking as a 17-year-old dad, it's pretty hard to define what's challenging after going through that.
No. What has been your greatest? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
As a community leader. Yeah.
Yeah. Going into, I think I was a community leader and a servant of my community, and one who didn't need a title. One who didn't need a title, and I served all throughout, going from being a teenage dad to becoming a dad, and working and being a single father and providing for my household, and losing the grandparents who raised me. So I think that service of my community, like you mentioned, if you're going to run for office, you should already be serving your community. Titles aren't needed to be a man of service.
Title comes, when you do it, the title will just come on you.
Act and you will become.
And it'll be there after. That's true leadership.
Yeah, and I think the challenge for me was more so having to deal with the constant discomfort that there are people who still don't think we deserve a seat at the table. I think that's the challenge. is that you can have 30 plus years of intervention and prevention work, and we're still clawing at the door, saying we can fix this. When I was first elected into office,
I agree.
I was reminded of that challenge that maybe some of my colleagues don't have. And I was doing a toy giveaway, and I was less than a month in office, and it was December 2020. I did my first toy giveaway as a councilman at El Salvador Park and in downtown Santa Ana. And a police officer tells the security guard, hey, this new councilman, he's a gang member from here. Is that true? And that was my first interaction as a council
throw
member.
up a sign on him or something?
No, I was giving toys away at the park I grew up at. I was giving toys away at the park I grew up at. And I remember going and having a discussion with this officer's superiors and saying, I want to remind you guys that no, I'm not a gang member, but I am a councilman, and you're going to have to respect that. And I think that for me, that was the reminder that although I broke the barrier of running against a sheriff and running against special interests and winning grassroots, I didn't have not one lawn sign I paid for. I just didn't think we needed them, because I'd rather knock on your door and follow up and help you with whatever we talked about the first time. I walked my neighborhood so much that when opposition got to their door the first time, they're like, save it, you know. And for me, that was the challenge, was when I got elected, knowing that although I got us across this hurdle, there was so many more hurdles in front of us. And the second challenge was when I was first elected, less than 9 months into office, my cousin Brandon was killed by Anaheim PD during a mental health crisis.
Right.
And he was shot and killed 22 times
Yeah.
over a 4-hour mental health crisis. And 7 days later, I had a city council meeting for rent control. And had a city council meeting where on that agenda, one of the items was for us to have mental health be removed from 911 to mental health service providers. And my cousin dies 7 days before that, and there's 10 hours of public speakers at this council meeting. And I'm 7 days removed from my cousin dying, and my family's all over the news, and we're hosting vigils. And I have to face one of two realities. The first reality is I do what I've already have known to do. I show up, because people in communities like ours don't have the luxury that when our family goes through trauma and a tragedy, we still got to be at work tomorrow. We still got to be at school tomorrow. And so option number one was that although I wanted to hide under a shell, I had to show up for my community, because I told them I would show up on my worst day. And if I didn't show up, rent control wouldn't have passed. And so I showed up. Option number two was, many people thought, oh, there's no way this guy's going to show up. His cousin was just killed by police. He's probably going to resign. This is probably going to be too much. And it didn't affect me that people thought that, because many people think that of us before we even step out of our bed. And I never want to prove people wrong. I want to just prove myself right, that this community is worth fighting for and that we can make it better even on our worst day. So it ain't really much of a challenge, because now they know.
I got you. You know, I went out there, you know, and that was tragic. You know, any death, and nobody deserves. I've been dealing with death since 1974. You know, guys and people that I've known for years murdered and all this stuff. You know, seeing the mom in the gutter sitting there because their son's murdered right there, crushed in the street, and she's sitting there wailing and sitting there with her. You know, it's a deep hurt, and you smell it, you feel it. You know,
The gunpowder.
You understand that brokenness.
Yeah.
You know, so I get it, and you know, with that thing that happened with your cousin, that was close to your heart, and it'd be close to anybody's heart, when it comes down to your family. And nobody can really judge that, judge how somebody's going to feel on that. We can't, you can't call it unless you've actually lived it. And those are truths that hopefully people would understand, where we give people grace, we give people mercy on certain things.
If I could say something on grace, that was a time where I saw very educated, well-intentioned people, very good people, say some very foul, hateful things about a person they have no idea is worth loving. And so for me, I had to be graceful with those people because I see a lot of them.
Yeah, and in life, Councilman Hernandez, the key is always going to be to guard your heart.
Always.
In the Word of God, it's you guard your heart, because there flows the issues of life, or the path of your life. And at the end of the day, you got to walk right. You got to forgive. You got to go forward. You got to be the bigger person in a sense, and because nobody deserves to be killed. But in all of that's very tragic. I'm very sorry about that. I know his mom and his father, and she came and supported us at Summer Night Lights, bought food for the community and everything, and I appreciate her for that, all of that.
Donna.
Yeah, she did. She came and just helped us feed. We served over 3,500 people for this 5 nights at Summer Night Lights.
Big shout out to Summer Night Lights and Neutral Ground for doing that every year.
It worked it there. So let me ask you this, my brother. What is your relationship with Neutral Ground?
Man, well, first and foremost, I'm a believer in Neutral Ground. I've been a believer for many years, Pastor Nati. And I think the reason why is because I've seen a lot of amazing intervention and prevention work across communities, whether it be Santa Ana, Los Angeles, the state of California. I've worked for many amazing intervention programs. But one of the things that I think a lot of these programs are lacking is the lived experiences in these communities that they serve. And I don't see enough people who came from Artesia Pilar doing intervention and prevention work. And when I saw you, I saw myself, especially knowing your relationship that you had with my father and knowing my uncles. I knew this was somebody who isn't going to judge people and cast them away when we're supposed to bring them in.
You know why I don't?
The job of serving the people.
Let me tell you this. You know why I've learned? Because I've missed it too many times in my life.
Wow.
I've dropped the ball. I've been a bad boy, and that's why I never give up on anybody.
Yeah.
Never. You don't. You try to continue to love people back to life. So yeah, you're right. On that.
I'm a believer, Pastor, and I'm a believer for a couple of reasons. For one, your guys' approach to making communities whole that are broken is multi-pronged. You have the community-based services where you're serving families before and keeping them hopefully away from the crosshairs of generational trauma.
Yep.
You guys are working in the classroom, you're working on the campuses, and you're working with the children who oftentimes don't get the time of the day to be asked, how are you doing today? How can we help you?
You bring up the schools, and you said something earlier regarding when we were growing up, being suspended, being kicked out, teacher coming in, this kid has an attitude. Well, I thank God for our district today. And because our district today, back when we started, Valeria Mesca was in there, and they brought in the restorative practices, which opened the door and helped me come in. And that's where all the restorative practice, we don't just suspend kids no more.
Yeah, it drops it drastically.
There's trauma. We understand that there's maybe that kid's acting out because there's no food at home. Maybe there's 3 families living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a sheet in the living room with no, place. So the beautiful thing about it is that hopefully our district understands that. And they also understand to bring guys like me
Yes.
a based program that's, walking in and into our schools and doing what we're doing, so
And that's why, Pastor, is you guys have the restorative practices. You guys have intervention and prevention. You guys trauma-informed care.
Yeah.
But one of the things I think people fail to acknowledge as much as they should is that you are practicing what you preach. And your family is a testament to that. Not only do they serve the community, but they serve God.
Yeah.
You guys have a church. And your guys' church opens its doors to anybody and everybody. And
day long.
I remember coming here for the first time when we lost Andrew, rest in peace, to suicide.
yeah,
And I remember coming here and,
That hurt.
and growing up with Andrew at the Santa Ana Boxing Club and coming to his funeral.
Yeah.
I remember just understanding what you do.
I have a picture in my office with me and him, he had just won a bout. We had took him up to Palm Springs, and he won a bout.
Desert Showdown.
Yeah, and I have the picture with me inside of that. That was sad. That broke. That hurt.
Broke. That was a sad day, and rest in peace to Coach Dennis as well.
Yeah.
I was inspired to see your daughter, your sons, your wife serve the community without conditions, whether it be Summer Night Lights, whether it be the Life Center, whether it be restorative practices on campus, or whether it be showing up to a vigil for police violence and praying. And that's what service is about.
Yeah.
It's about providing, you provide church for the unchurched, whether it's in a classroom, the streets, or at the Life Center. And that's why I'm a believer.
Well, I believe for me, I don't believe that I've been called to be in just the church circles. Early on, I've always spoken with my wife, and in the Bible there's a story about a man named Daniel. And God used him in a secular arena with presidents, like 4 different presidents. He was their advisor, and God exalted him and gave him favor, but yet he was still a man of God. See, I'm a man of God. I serve my community. We go into the streets. We're not out there telling people you're going to go to hell. We're out there loving people back to life. That's the key, and that's what we believe here in our community.
That's what service looks like. And I think that's what helps me embrace my faith, is seeing what you do. And that's why for me, as a community organizer and a community member, anytime there has been an opportunity for us to pray over our community, I want to take that. And you've joined me in many spaces where we have blessed events before we
Thank you for
started.
allowing me to, inviting me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor. You are appreciated.
Well, we're going to start winding this down in about 15 minutes, but I want to ask you a quick question. What is your vision for the city of Santa Ana?
My vision for the city of Santa Ana is to change the narrative on how government is designed to serve people. That means that if we know and we acknowledge that communities are broken and that they're traumatized, let's provide programs that help heal them. If there's a community that is facing, violence, let's provide resources.
Yes.
Let's put more libraries in these communities. Let's build more parks. Let's build more community support programs. And let's make mental health accessible through our community centers. Make it accessible through the literary arts. Make it accessible through music. And I think that for me as a councilman, in the first year and a half of my time here with the city of Santa Ana, I've brought 2 parks to my district, more than any other council member. And one park is located off of Wright and Myrtle, and the other park is located off of 10th and Flower. And the reason why I share this is because I don't want to just sit on this seat and at the end of my 4 years tell people, if you reelect me, I'll do this, this, and that. I want to walk alongside my community and hear their demands and meet them during the time that I'm here. And as I'm looking at my reelections, I want the community to say, here's what we want to work on together. Yeah. And for me, my vision for Santa Ana is that people should not be criminalized for living in poverty. We should be providing more sports, more recreational programs, more summer programs. We need to support and fund organizations like Neutral Ground because our only solution to violence can't be after the fact. We know that there are brave officers who go out and they choose to serve our community, but they can't stop a bullet once it's shot. They show up after. We need people who understand that the trauma we're facing in our community is generational. We need people who can come into these communities, work with these families. When we see young children who potentially can fall through the cracks, we need to be there to lift them. And when they do fall through the cracks, we need to have the infrastructure to welcome them back home. Because the reason why communities like Santa Ana suffer with violence is because we don't have the proper responses in place to help people once violence happens.
Yeah.
And it's been happening for generations.
I tell you.
But I think people like you guys are going to be the solution. And I think you guys can work alongside agencies like our police department, our firefighters, and mental health workers. And you guys have been doing the work on the ground. So my vision is to see organizations like you guys programmed at all of our largest parks so that we can start activating these communities and programming them. And I think that when we do that, people not only will feel more visible, they'll feel heard, and when they're going through hardship, we can have a response finally.
Thank you.
And I think we'll be onto something once we start doing
you
that.
know, I've been doing this work for like 33 years, and here in the city of Santa Ana, and just doing it, my wife and I, doing it, you know, kids, and we got older girls, 40-year-olds now that are in our lives that come back with their families, and that's the greatest joy. You can't buy that. That money can't buy that when you sow into people's lives. It's not about money. It's about just loving people. And, you know, when I think about the violence in the streets and all that, I'm so glad that yourself, our council, our city manager, have been open to the intervention piece of it. Because, you know, whether I have the money or not, we've always done it because just what we do. But there's so much more we could do if we're financed and funded. And that has helped, you know, but there's just so much more out there. And it's built on relationship. We are in the city, so when there's a violence, we hear before the police actually who did it. And we find out what neighborhood it was, maybe not additional person it was, but, you know, was this neighborhood or was that neighborhood, where we're able to maybe go out there and stop, you know, retaliation and what have you. And that's because we have a license to operate in our community.
LTO.
You know, and that's not given, that's earned. And we've earned that in our community here when you've done it as long as I've done it, you know. And I'm blessed because my life, everything that I've ever prayed for, I have it today. And that's to be able to do what I do today. I mean, if I were to die today, the dreams that I had back in 1990 when I got saved and got clean, they're here. It's taken a lot of work, but they're here. You talk about park and recs and what have you. I grew up at the El Salvador Park area in the 70s. It was big. We had lunch in the afternoon. We had caroms and bumper pool and ping pong and, you know, flag football and 10-inch football and baseball and all these things that we did, and we competed. You know, in our community, we play against all the different parks. You know, you don't have that no more. You don't see, there was always a bunch of kids there. Mrs. Hope was our arts and crafts teacher, you know, and you don't see any of that no more.
I have a good update for you.
You know, well, hopefully, because, you know, I don't see anywhere, but that park, we got something crazy going on this Sunday at that park. It's the park, I was raised 3 houses from that park. My dad bought that home in 1960.
I'm 2 houses from it.
And I lived there my whole life. That was my backyard. Yeah. You know, me and my dog, that was our backyard. And back then, I could just walk over there. But, you know, where we're at today, we got something going on that's called Chicano Heritage Festival this Sunday.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that as we get ready to wind down here.
Well, first and foremost, it would not be happening if it wasn't for Summer Night Lights. Summer Night Lights, I credit as the program that changed the story. And it obviously fits because that goes with your organization.
Right.
But I credit Summer Night Lights for effectively changing the story of El Salvador Park. And when I went to the first Summer Night Lights, I remember seeing your son and your daughter. I remember seeing your wife. I remember seeing community members that oftentimes aren't embraced at our parks because of the tattoos on their face, because of the classic cars, or because they don't have, whether it be maybe they don't have the money. You guys didn't turn anyone away. And when I saw a live band at the park, you had Chico, and you had the drummer of War playing So and singing it.
Right,
And I was like, this is El Salvador Park. This is a Friday night. There's 1,000 people here.
Yeah.
People are eating Chick-fil-A sandwiches for free. There's snow
They
cones.
sponsored us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is
Carne asada, too.
carne asada. And I remember seeing it and just having my whole family there.
Yeah.
I had a primo there who hadn't been to the park since he first went to prison, and he was there for a very long time, 10 plus years. And for him, he was like, I don't go to the park, you know, my life's changed. And he went there and he danced.
Yeah.
And I remember he was just like, Pastor Nati is changing. He changed that part. He's changing the story. He goes, that man is changing this park. And I remember looking around and thinking, he is. If I ever get elected, I want to help what he's doing. And I remember when I got elected, I just wanted to support what you guys did. And August 17th of 2021, I declared, along with Councilmember Nelida Mendoza, and I want to give her flowers,
Yeah, she's been
because
good.
she's a Chicana from Santana. She's a veteran, and she made a bold decision to partner and work in conjunction with myself. And we both decided August should be Chicano Heritage Month. And it was because we were inspired by people like yourself, people like Ruben Salazar, the first Mexican-American journalist in California who worked for the LA Times, who died during the Chicano moratorium. He lived in Santana. The Sylvia Mendez family. You have Gilbert Melendez, a world champion fighter from Santa Ana. And you have people like Marina Aguilera. I was inspired by all of the amazing people in the community. And we both decided, let's do August. And we proclaimed August Chicano Heritage Month. And this year, during the budget cycle, I introduced Juneteenth. I introduced Indigenous Peoples Day. I introduced Chicano Heritage Festival. And we also introduced, thank you to Councilmember Fan, the Lunar Fest and the Mid-Autumn Fest. Forgive me, and that's the festival that we introduced. And Fiestas Patrias as well during Hispanic Heritage Month. And these were some of the things that we fought for on the council. And when Chicano Heritage Month was first announced, my ideology was, if this event is going to happen, it needs to be led by the people that are from this community. We have amazing City of Santa Ana staff that made sure this event was representative of the community.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that they worked alongside you and Neutral Ground in listening to the neighborhood and bringing their ideas to this event. And on Sunday, we have a beautiful festival, the first time any city in the United States has ever acknowledged Chicano history and declared a month. And I have an announcement. In New Mexico, the city of Esperanza this past Tuesday declared August Chicano Heritage Month as well. But it starts in Santana. And that's what we have going on Sunday. Little Willie G, the voice of the Midnighters, Joe Bathan, the legendary Joe Bathan, D. Sinceres, Funk Freaks, Lighter Shade of Brown, Kid Frost, Doughboy Tony, Jamal Jones, Val 9, DJ Charisma, Zenaloa, Los Dados Trios, George Perez, world-class, amazing comedian, DJ Droops, the longest-standing hip-hop promoter in Santa Ana, you know, Sarah Rafael Garcia, Libro Mobile founder, Isabela Quintero, amazing author, who's Chicana, Alexis Rocha, you know, a future world championship boxer.
Come on, man.
Pastor Nati Alvarado, founder of the Life Center, founder of Neutral Ground. What I'm most proud of is these are people from our community. And it's about time that we finally celebrate our stories.
It's so good.
Sunday, I'm looking forward to changing the story with you.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Let's
Come
go.
on, man. It's going to be good. And I'm looking forward to it. I really am. You know, we have a car shop. We have a kid zone
Shout
for
out
all
to
the
Junior
kids.
and Orange County Car Club for that.
Yeah, Junior, we helped us bring some cars in, and you know, we're gonna have a kid zone. We're gonna have a art display, some beautiful art of Chicano art. It's gonna be there, and we're gonna have food trucks there that'll be selling food. We're gonna have vendor booths. We're not gonna be selling stuff from our vendor booths, but we will have some things there. It's gonna be a really good time. We encourage you to park over at the Santa Ana College. You're going to go into the lot that's off of Pacific and Washington. That's a lot that you're going to be able to go into.
Lot 7.
Yeah, lot 7. And we encourage you to park in there. And, you know, I want to give a shout out to Suavecito that has sponsored Neutral Ground and doing what we're doing and in our work and become a part of also just being a name on this whole Chicano heritage. Just the name, you know, they're just, you know, Tony's doing, Adami's doing a tremendous job with that and reaching our Chicano.
And if we can touch on that, Suavecito is such a impactful company.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. For one, they grew up in the Santa Anita neighborhood, one of the original Chicano communities in Santa Ana, and they grew up off of Gunther Street. And they grew up in the community. They went to school in the community, and they're products of the Santa Anita Community Center.
Yeah.
And you know, credit to the Adame brothers and Jay Bird who founded Suavecito. It's a Chicano-owned company. They employ 100% of Santa Ana locals. They've opened up Gunther's. They've opened up Cafecito. They've opened up Cervezacito. They have 2 Gunther stores. And what I'm proud of is that they never left their community. They could have opened a headquarters anywhere, and they chose to do it here in Santa Ana.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud that they have never strayed away from their roots and their background, and to see them work with Neutral Ground. I mean, outside of Chicano Heritage Festival, it's great that we're gonna have people like them there, but for them to partner with an organization like Neutral Ground because they support the work that you guys do in the community, it speaks volumes of how diverse and intentional this company is, because this company it's investing in its own backyard.
Yeah.
And it's not leaving it, and they're very generous to sponsor and help Neutral Ground. I mean, even outside of this event, but I'm really proud that they got down with these Neutral Ground t-shirts.
Yeah.
Neutral Ground has these shirts that I'm excited to share,
Yeah,
which I'm wearing, the Chicano Heritage
If you go to our
Festival.
website, we're going to be up on our website. We just got them in, so we'll be putting these up on our website. And we're going to set something up, possibly if you want to come by and pick them up here at the office at the Life Center, 1920 East 17th Street. We will post that on our NG page. If you could go to our NG Facebook page or to my page, Not the Alvarado, on Facebook. You could go to either one of those, and we're going to have these shirts up. And I wish I would have had a couple just to show you something. And I'll get one around and just show it up for you. But if you want to buy them prior to the event Sunday, we only have so many, so we want to encourage you to come in there. But I also want to just thank our laborers union here in Santa Ana. You know, we have some people there, Adrian and Robert, that
Jesse Segura.
you know, that have been tremendous with helping guys out, you know, for work. And you can walk on up, Ree, and for work and what have you. But I want to say that you know, it's these organizations. You know, these guys are homegrown too. They believe in what we do here in the city. You can walk on up. This is my beautiful daughter passing us something.
Oh, there, Bree. Here you go, Pastor.
So here's. I just want to give you a little look here. These are these are one of them, and on the back here, it says Chicano Heritage Festival, Suavecito and Neutral Ground NG, first annual, and so we'll have these for you for sale.
And these
donation
here,
there, and there's another one. This one's pretty cool.
This here is Neutral Ground and Suavecito. You know, really just telling the community story. This is beautiful. I'm really proud to see them support the vision of Neutral Ground. This is a really
Yeah, they did all the artwork for us and everything just to help us out. They believe in what Neutral Ground does in the street, in the community, and I was so grateful for him, you know, to come alongside of us and get you talking with Mr. Adame. I played baseball with his uncles and stuff, so that sort
that's
of
a good family.
made a connection there with them. But you know, Councilman Hernandez, I just want to let you know that I believe in you. I appreciate you believing in Nati, believing in neutral ground, believing in my heart, in our work, what we do in our community. I'm a homegrown. All my work is here in Santa Ana. Now we're possibly looking at maybe venturing out to other cities.
World needs
But
it.
it's always been, my heart has always been in Santa Ana. You know, my grandma lived in Artesia. We've been here like close to 100 years, my family, here in Santa Ana. And we love our city, we love our community. We hurt when we see death with our young people, you know, just devastated by the drugs. But I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come out. I want to thank you for your heart, for putting together, for getting money written into the city budget so we could do this Chicano Festival yearly going forward.
Yes.
And I'm honored to be work alongside the city of Santa Ana, to be asked and to be able to support them. And hopefully the work that I've done with what they've given me has been beneficial to our community with the finances. I believe it has.
Oh, yes.
with
We need to make sure that we have more resources going to neutral ground because our community be better off.
Well, thank you so much. I want to thank you all for watching tonight. I want to ask you if you could share this tonight. You know, share it to some of your friends. Come on out Sunday. Bring your family. It's going to be good. Bring your lawn chairs. It's going to be out in the grass and all. But let's give them a big smile. Come on, give them a big smile. All
Shout out, everybody.
So
Thank
you guys. Love you. Thank you for joining us. Be cool.
Peace, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm very much looking forward to Sunday. Don't cancel yet. I just don't want to see.